Sorry, I'm a shorty here, so are we looking good? Got all our ducks in a row? Okay, speaking of perfect, that was the perfect reading. So thank you, Judy, for picking that out. And thank you, Jim, for just reading it with such depth and beauty. And Doug, you always pick the perfect songs. Because I swear to God, this whole talk today is about my guardian angels working overtime. Just the way you all, maybe experienced that last week too. Oh, and Doug, you're so sweet. Thank you. See how we take care of each other? Yes, it's switched off, so we're good to go. All right. So this morning, we are going to start with story time with Reverend Kamatara. And the story that I'm going to share with you, my family likes to call the Roswell incident, where I lost about 5 to 10 seconds of my life. But, little disclaimer, not to disappoint, I do have to warn you, this story does not include aliens. Sorry. But it does include Roswell, because on our spring break trip in March, we were doing the tourist thing. We're in Roswell. We had just finished at the Visitors Center, and we're headed towards the International UFO Museum, which is actually sincerely worth a visit. It's really interesting, but we hadn't made it there yet. We're in this lovely little square that the civic engineers just outdid themselves in, with all the landscaping and the flagstone and the bushes and the flowers and all the little different levels of brick and whatnot. And Ken makes the transition down just fine, and Bo makes the transition down just fine, and I absolutely miss the unmarked step. And I'm going down hard, and all of a sudden, that's where I black out. I have no idea what happened. I'm going down hard, and then all of a sudden, boom, I'm standing on my feet again. And my heart is pounding, and my adrenaline's up, and my phone's on the ground, and my 17-year-old Bo is looking at me in shocked disbelief, and all the other tourists who are in the area are like, oh, did you just see that? It was crazy. And what Bo tells me happened during that time, because I have no clue, is that I did a perfect forward roll. If you have studied martial arts, you know what that means, that you start standing up. You go all the way down to the ground, do the roll like feet overhead, and you land on your feet. Right? Oh my gosh, so I appreciate the gasp, because that's how I felt too. I was in so much shock that happened, that I did not break my nose. I didn't scrape my face. I didn't break my arm. Nothing. And when I went to the chiropractor later that week, he said, no, you're good to go. Golden. Not a scratch, not a ding, nothing. It was totally crazy. Now, I do have to put a little context into place. When our 17-year-old Bo was younger, they did study martial arts. They studied Aikido. And when they were in the children's class, the sensei, in all his wisdom, said, parents, get on the mat with your kids so you know what they're doing. Are you serious? Did I sign up for this? Well, I'm a 40-year-old on the mat with 10-year-olds doing bear crawls and learning, and it was ridiculous. But I love my child, so there I am on the mat doing these crazy things. And if you've ever done martial arts, you know the first thing they teach you how to do is fall. They teach you how to fall back. They teach you how to roll forward. And you do it every time you go. Even if you're doing other advanced moves, you always start at home base, how to fall. So even though I was terrible at it, and I'm sure I gave the sensei much grief, I was like, why would I put my shoulder on the mat first? How does that even make sense? Because I'm so in my head, right? Oh, he'd get so mad at me. But I tried really hard. Now, keep in mind, this was probably 4 or 5 years ago when Bo was in the children's class, so I haven't done Aikido in a long time. So I was as shocked as the next person that it worked out. But it really got me to thinking about this mini miracle that I got to experience. What happened in those 5 to 10 seconds where I just was not there? Maybe that's where my guardian angels were working overtime to kind of bridge the gap. And I was thinking that in between the ow and the wow, there's this now. And in that gap, that's where miracles are possible. And is there any process that we could do to help our guardian angels along, to foster a little bit more of that wow that could happen. Because I think the potential miracle really could happen oftentimes in our life if we could just learn to roll with it. Yeah, that was funny. Thank you. Okay, but true story. And so now here are some practical insights to really think about this little microcosm, but think about your own lives too, because you know I'm a practical girl. I always ask you about you. So will you take a moment and think of one area in your life where you feel you might be getting really tripped up right now? Something that feels like a face plant that's just about to happen, or something that's really uncomfortable. Just one area. And we're going to work on that little guy today. Okay. So here's some insights. Number one, I got to have my mini miracle because I had learned a new way to respond. I had learned the proper way to fall. When people typically fall, what do they usually first do? Exactly. Oh, you got to break your fall. Literally break. I mean, that's why people break their wrists, their elbow. Like, that's one of the worst things you can do is to brace your fall. But I learned a new way. I had new action steps, a new process. I had released the old playbook, had a new playbook, and it was fully incorporated within me with regular practice over a great deal of time. It became a natural response that no longer required thought. In fact, I couldn't have done that if I tried, as evidenced by all the time I spent on the mat with the senseis. So it wasn't about thinking, it was about practicing a new way of being and having it become my second nature that just happens without thought. So in the area where you're struggling, do you have some old patterns or old ways of being that, or something you keep doing and you're like, gosh, that just doesn't seem to be working? Doctor, it hurts when I do that. Then don't do that. I know that's an oversimplification, but it's good to hear that. And what if you just, I know it's silly, what if you tried something new? Just saying, in that situation where there's a bit of struggle, releasing some old ways, finding a new action step, a new process, a new approach could be miraculous. Or maybe just contemplate, what would you like your natural response to be in that situation? Because I know sometimes in a situation, it doesn't always bring out the best in me. What would I like my response to be? Could I practice that response so it just becomes second nature? Like, I would love to be a person who is gentle and kind and listening. Not always my strong suit, so I need to practice that more. So think about what might you practice, what quality would come into this struggle that might make it a little better. Okay, the second thing I realized about my mini miracle is that what happened for me was beyond what I thought was humanly possible for myself. It was a miracle. And I know some of you are saying, you just took a tumble and you landed on your feet. But you don't know me. I'm just saying, my family can testify, I am a faller. I fall a lot. Like Maggie Simpson, I'm just saying, we're hiking on the trail up in the Jemez, and there's a little sandy gravel wash. Boom, I go down. I'm picking out gravel from my road rash, from my ankle to my knee. We were in Cabo San Lucas, and I say to my children, be very careful going down to the beach. Hold the rail on the stairs. And they're all down at the beach, and I'm coming down last, and I am holding the rail, and I still fall down a concrete flight of stairs and break my toe and a whole bunch of, it was ridiculous. So I'm telling you, like, if there's a bump in the road, a crack in the sidewalk, a step that's unmarked, I will find it, and I will fall. So to have a different response, I mean, it was like beyond what I thought was humanly possible for me. But that only could happen because I released control. I checked out of my limiting beliefs. And now that I've had this new experience, I can say, I am not, up until now, I was maybe a person who fell, but now I'm a person who lands on her feet. I'm a person who lands on my feet. This is new. So just think about in your own life. Have you ever had an experience of doing something that was beyond what you ever thought you could do? Probably, at least once, I'm sure. So could you hold on to that as evidence, like, I've done that before. I'm sure I could do something beyond what I thought was possible. Because when those things happen, it changes our perception of ourselves, our limiting beliefs fall away. So let's transfer that to that area where you're struggling, where you're being a little tripped up. What could happen in that situation that would be beyond belief? Just imagine that for a moment. That is the line of work we are in, producing miracles, right? That's what we do here. So if we could just open our mind to the fact that something beyond what we thought was humanly possible could actually happen in this moment because we are beyond human, wouldn't that be neat? So yeah, that'd be something to imagine or to live into, something beyond what we thought could have happened in that situation. Another insight that came to mind as I'm unpacking my groovy little miracle is that nothing is wasted. I hadn't been on the mat in 4 or 5 years, and it was still in there. And I wasn't there for me, I was there for Bo. But it took a hold. Who knew it would come in handy? Have you ever looked back on something after all these things happened and then connected the dots or gone, oh, that's why that happened, or it all added up to, right? So we've had that experience before. So in this place where you might be struggling and you're a little tripped up, could you just bridge the gap a little bit, have a little faith and be like, okay, I don't know why this is happening, but I'm sure later on I'm going to look back and be like, oh, okay, I get what happened there. And with the phrase nothing is wasted, a lot of people say that's Brene Brown, and she does use that phrase a lot, but it actually comes from the Bhagavad Gita. So it says, no effort is wasted and no gain is ever lost when on this path. Even a little practice will shelter you from sorrow and protect you from the greatest fear. So even that little bit of practice, that little mind-opening thought that I don't know why I'm having this ow kind of moment right now, but could we have a little bit of faith to do what we really believe in the spiritual community, which is to experience divine right order. And not just to know it intellectually, because I can say divine right order all day long. And sometimes it's a spiritual bypass to just be like, oh yeah, it's all in divine right order. But to get it to that experiential level that's deep and real. And I know we say, you've probably heard the phrase, oh, it all works out in the end. And if it hasn't worked out yet, it's not the end. But again, I can say that till the cows come home. But when I'm in the gap, when I'm in between the ow and the wow, I'm in that really messy, gooey, ucky stage in between, that's where I need to pull out the faith of divine right order, of times when I have experienced that in the past, so it helps me through this gap, especially when I cannot see it or feel it in the moment, to just know that regardless of seeming appearance, it looks like I'm going down hard. It looks like I'm going to eat the pavement. And guess what? I landed on my feet. To just know, even if it's 5 to 10 seconds long, just 5 to 10 seconds of knowing could change your life. So now thinking of these 4 little thoughts, this process, on a bigger scale, I definitely have very recently experienced something on a much grander scale that followed almost exactly the same thing. But instead of 5 to 10 seconds, it was about 5 years or the last 5 months. As some of you know, that in January, I got all my courage bolstered up and I applied for the senior minister position at the Rio Grande Center for Spiritual Living in Albuquerque, New Mexico, because they're looking for a minister. And I got my letters of recommendation and I got my resume and I did all the things. And man, I had to get my courage up and face my enoughness issues and really bring it. And I turned it all in and I did the interview with the ministerial search committee. And it basically ended with them saying, no thanks. We love you so much, but we're looking for someone who's run a church before, which is understandable. And ow, oh, that was hard. That was really hard. And I really had to take it to prayer, and I had to do a lot of work and grieve and all the things, which is important to experience all the things that went with that. But what was really interesting for me to think about, what helped me to keep my faith in the gap between the ow and the wow, was a little thought that, the universe is saying no to me right now, like a hard no. But I also know that the other side of every no is a yes. So if the universe is saying no to this, it must be saying yes to something else. I don't know what that is. It was really messy and gory in the in-between time. And what really surprised me is that it was important for me to go through exactly that experience, even though it resulted in a really big ow, because I, number one, learned a new way to respond. It was new to me to say, I am worthy, I am enough, I am skilled, I do deserve to be in a senior leadership position, I do bring something to the table, and I fully incorporated that idea so much so that I lived it into reality. Because just last week, I manifested something far beyond what I thought was humanly possible for myself. Last week, I was just told that I got a promotion at my nonprofit job. So where I started as the national trainer, I just got promoted to be the executive director. Thank you. Again, shocking to me, beyond what I thought was humanly possible, because I was a school teacher for 25 years. I got into this nonprofit world, knew I did not understand much of what was going on, and in just 4 years to be in the senior leadership position, I was really shocked. And yet, maybe not, because again, nothing is wasted. The 4 years of ministerial school, the 4 years of training in the nonprofit where I was, all, 2 decades of being a teacher, all the things that lead to it. Yeah, absolutely. All of it was coming together. And all the courage that it took for me to even apply to Rio Grande got me to that next level. And we all know what happens when we send that out to the universe. The universe always says, yes, my beloved, I will make that true for you. It just wasn't what I thought. I thought I was going this way, and Spirit's like, no, you're going this way. Okay, so I completely landed on my feet. I was shocked, would not have seen that coming. But truly, that is all divine right order. And so last week was the wow after the ow. And the only thing that got me through that was living into the now with my faith, knowing, okay, I don't understand what's happening, but I know it's okay, that we're going to get there. There's some reason why this is happening, and it really is all going to work out in the end. And that was my bigger miracle. I landed on my feet. So I really hope this week you're going to consider, again, is there some area in your life where you're getting tripped up right now? And what could be that new way for you to respond that would just make a world of difference to that situation or for that person? And what might you practice or embed in your second nature that would just be a healing balm or rocket fuel for this situation to shift it from the ow into the wow? Did that really happen? What would it look like? Could you even imagine what it would look like if you manifested something beyond what you think is humanly possible in that situation? That would be a great question to contemplate and picture, and to go beyond just intellectually knowing divine right order, and to lean into the experience of the faith that's needed in the meantime, in the gap before it all works out in the end. Because when you're in the now, between the ow and the wow, can you just roll with it? All right, let's take it to prayer. In this beautiful moment, it is so easy to recognize the presence of the one loving source, of the all that is, the sacred expressing as you, as me, as we, as this beautiful spiritual community the divine that's expressing in the ow, and the divine that's expressing in the wow, all of that and everything in between is the place where God shows up. Because that's truly all there is. And so knowing that there is no separation, I know that I am and you are divinely guided and blessed. The way is made clear where there seems to be no way. And we each land on our feet. And each can connect with the qualities of the divine that we could bring forth in that gnarly moment. That we could be the envoy of the divine in that moment. That we could level up. That we could hold on to our faith just a little bit longer, just roll with it a little bit longer, and then land on our feet. And so knowing that each person is absolutely held in the arms of the divine, that our guardian angels are always working. There's no such thing as overtime. They're always working. Everything truly is in divine right order, regardless of seeming appearance. And for this, I give thanks. I lean into the experience. I radically accept any ow type moment that comes into my life, knowing that it is just a few steps away from becoming a wow. And so, with a grateful heart and allowing the divine to have its way, I let this beautiful prayer go, knowing that all is well, truly all is well. And so it is. Amen.